Welcome everyone to our course. This course is an introduction into video editing using Premiere Pro. It will take you from the very beginning of opening Premiere Pro to the very end of exporting a finished project. My name is Will Bartlett and I've been professionally editing since 2004. I'm the founder of an established video production company in Toronto and I've edited well over 1,000 projects. We will cover everything from the various panel windows, file organization, editing clips together, working with audio and titles, color correction, creating sequence presets, keyboard shortcuts, exporting, and much more. While you make your way through this course, our team will be available to answer any questions you may have. Just reach out to us in the comments section. And again, even if you don't have Premiere Pro, you can still take advantage of this course by downloading a free 30-day trial from Adobe's website. Thanks for enrolling in this course, and when the time comes, please leave us a rating and a review. Okay, so let's start creating a new project. This is our welcome screen when you click on Premiere Pro. We're going to be creating a new project, or you can open a recent project. If you've started one in the past, you can check out new features and so on. So for us, we will go to New Project, and a new window opens up. So we have our name here. We will title it Video Editing Course. Our location is set to the folder we created in a previous lesson. So inside Projects, inside Premiere Pro. We will go to Choose, and this is where the project will be saved. Video rendering and playback. Right now I have it set up to OpenCL. If you have a graphics card that can utilize the Mercury playback engine and you have what's called CUDA installed, this is from NVIDIA. It's a free download, and if your graphics card can support it, I would highly recommend using it and selecting your playback engine to Mercury Playback CUDA. For us, we'll just stick with OpenCL. Video, audio, capture, that's all fine. Let's go to Scratch Disks. Any captured video from tape, which most likely you won't be doing, but any captured video will be set to the same as project. Captured audio, the exact same. Video previews, same as project. Audio previews, project autosave, and the CC libraries. So these are all defaulted to same as project, and I would highly recommend keeping them always to same as project. You can change them if you'd like, but basically what this means is all of these things will go and be saved in your same as project location so that everything is organized efficiently in one spot. This is the default Windows layout panels. When you first start up, this is probably what it'll look like. I like to customize it a little bit, so we're going to move some things around. The bottom left here, we have our project window. This is our main window. This is where footage gets imported. We have our tools section. We have our timeline. This is otherwise known as a sequence. This is where our clips will be placed after a sequence has been created, and then we can start moving some footage or audio around to start creating an edit. Over here is our meters showing our audio once we're playing back a sequence that has audio in it. Here's our program monitor. This is our main visual representation of what's happening in the sequence. We have our source panel. If we were to import a file and then double click it, it would open up in source for us to view. We have in another tab here, effect controls. If we were to import footage, drop it in our timeline, and then add an effect to it, it would show up here. Okay, let's go down to our effects right here. This is where we can browse through and go through different effects. We can apply video effects, transitions, and the exact same for audio. For now, I think we'll leave it at that, and in the next one, I will start moving some panels around to create our own custom workspace. Okay guys, welcome back. In this one, we're going to be moving around different panel windows in order to create our own custom workspaces. I'll set it up how I like to edit, so let's get started. I like to keep the timeline at the bottom. This is pretty standard in most editing programs. I like to bring the project window up to the top left. So in order to do that, we click and hold and drag it. Now, before we let go, you'll notice that depending on where I place it, it'll be highlighting different areas. If I wanted to sit on the right, it would be here. If I wanted to place it below the top windows, then I would place it here. So for example, I want it on the top left and beside all the windows. So I'll place it right here. So let's try it again. Click and hold. So if I wanted it below all of these, we would leave it right here. And now it's placed the window below all of these. If I wanted it on the right side of all of those, I would place it here. Now it's aligned the project panel window to the right side of all of the other panels. Same thing, let's click and hold. Let's bring it to the right side. Now it's on the right side. Let's click and hold, and we'll set it up right there. In order to expand the panel to see a little more, if you go to the just on the edge, you'll see it changes from an arrow into the left and right arrow. And if you click and hold, you can actually drag it and make it as large as you want. Let's leave it at around there. Okay, let's go to our tools section. When it highlights, we know that that is what we are working with. I like to place my tools at the top. Then we'll click here. We'll wait until we get the two arrows. Click and hold and drag. So now on the right side we have our tools and we have our audio below it. For our media browser, I tend to not use this as I prefer to import and locate footage in a different way. So we're going to close this panel. Our info tab we don't need to worry about. Okay, and now we have our effects tab. So we're going to click and hold this and we're going to bring it up and keep it right beside our project panel window. We will open it up just a little bit. Now I like to keep my program monitor to the right side of my effects panel, and I have my effect controls on the far right side. So let's click and hold, and we will place it on the left side of the effect controls panel, which brings all of these tabs to the right side. The reason why I like the program window in the center is because this is our main playback, and instead of turning my head or eyes always trying to view the playback, if it was on the left I'd be turning to the left to try to view the playback always. This way it's right in front of me and it's easy to see. We can go over to metadata. We can close that as well. We do not need that. We have our source, which I actually like to place in the program window, and to do that, instead of here, you'd go right to the top where it forms a line as if it was a part of the tabs. And then you can see now it has a tab. So let's bring our program to the front of it. So that's our first tab, and then we have source as the second. We have our effect controls beside it, and then we have audio clip mixer beside that. Let's go down to the bottom left again. We can close markers, we don't need that. And we can close the history, as I do not like to work with the history as well. So now we have our timeline panel that stretches the whole length. We can click and drag this so it fits a little more nice. Now this is generally the setup I like to edit with. You can change it to whatever you'd like, but for our purposes this is what we will be working with for the rest of the video course. Let's go to Window, Workspaces, and we will save changes to this workspace. That is listed as the editing tab. Okay, to open up different windows, if for example you do need the metadata tab or the media browser tab, then you can go into Window and you can find whichever one you want to open up. The info, history, and so on. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is set up Premiere Pro in order for it to be optimized for your system. Let's go up to Premiere Pro CC, Preferences, and General. So let's go to the General tab. Inside the General tab, we have several different options that we can change. I've already optimized my setup, so I will show you which ones I've changed. I've changed timeline mouse scrolling from vertical to horizontal. That means when you're working in your timeline or sequence, you can use the mouse scroll wheel to move from left to right throughout your timeline. Instead of it's set up to vertical, where if you use the mouse scroll wheel, it'll go up and down through the layers. I find it to be a little more efficient to use a horizontal, so let's keep it at that. The next thing is, if you have any of these checked, you can remove them. I believe this is normally checked, this is normally checked, and I believe default scale to frame size is also normally checked. The reason why I do not like to have these selected is because it can get annoying when you're rendering previews and it immediately jumps your cursor to the beginning of your timeline, and most of the time you do not want to do that. Or once you've finished playing the end of a timeline, it jumps to the start as well. Default scale to frame size you can leave on if you'd like. This basically means that any footage that you bring down into the timeline will default to the size of your frame, meaning the resolution will auto scale to fill up your frame. Okay, so the next thing I believe I changed is the still image default duration. I like to set mine to like 5 or 10. So we'll change it to 10 seconds. That is the length of a photo or still image that is imported into your sequence. It'll appear as 10 seconds long. Now you can stretch it to whatever size you want, but this will save a little bit of time down the road as it'll always default to 10 seconds. Okay, let's go to appearance. Now I like to edit on the far left side where the layout is the darkest. I find this easiest on the eyes once you're editing for several hours. So we'll leave it at that. Let's go to audio. Now I set all my default audio tracks to mono. The reason being, sometimes you import audio from a camera into your timeline. Sometimes it's frustrating having to figure out how to separate the audio from the stereo track in order to get two separate channels. So this way, everything you bring in, even music, it'll show up as two different channels. Okay, and if you have any audio plugins that you prefer to work with from, let's say, Pro Tools or another audio program, you can find them in here, and then they will show up inside Premiere Pro to use. Okay, let's go to audio hardware. I don't think I change anything in this. I leave it as is. If your audio isn't working, then you can troubleshoot by going to the device class and changing the setting here if you have others. You can also go to default input or default output and change those. Okay, let's go to autosave. I highly recommend that you keep this checked and you increase the versions to 40 and reduce the automatically save every certain amount of minutes to 5. This means it saves more often and backs up more files. In an editing project, in a 5-minute period, you could probably do a few hundred clicks, and that is a lot of changes you've made to your project. So if more than 5 minutes goes by, you could be losing a lot of time if something were to, like your system crashes or the power goes out. So save more often, make more backups, and this is great. Okay, the next thing is our capture window. This is if you're capturing any footage from a tape. This will probably be removed at some point in the future as tapes aren't really used anymore, such as like mini DV tapes or HD tapes. Okay, control surface. Again, you don't need to worry about this. This is similar to this. Device control, same idea. Label colors. We can get into this a little later, but basically you can rename all of these and create custom, very vibrant colors to help you edit. Let's go to label defaults. I would keep this the same. When you change the names here, those will auto update. Okay, let's go to media. In here, we have a thing called media cache files. Those are temporary files that Premiere automatically creates and stores in this location. You can change it if you'd like. And what they do is they help Premiere Pro play back more efficiently by saving temporary files called cache files. If you'd like to save your temporary files beside the originals, check this box. However, I don't think that makes much sense, so I keep it unchecked. Media cache database. So this is where it is saved. From time to time, I would highly recommend cleaning this up as they are temporary files. And the next time you open your project, if you did clean it, it'll just create them again. So If you know you've finished a project or several projects and you won't be opening them anytime soon, then I would highly suggest cleaning them because it will free up space on your hard drive, and these files do get pretty large. So let's clean now. Everything else I would keep the same. Memory. Now this is your RAM, your random access memory, installed on your computer. So on my Mac Pro, I have 26 gigabytes installed. I have it set up right now to 5 gigabytes reserved for other applications. That means that 21 gigabytes are free for all of the other Premiere Pro programs. Right now my system is optimized for performance instead of memory. I would recommend keeping at least 2 to 3 gigabytes free for other applications. This is when you're changing to a different program or you're browsing the internet while editing. It leaves a little bit of memory so that you can use the other programs and they won't be sluggish. Okay, let's go to playback. In here, if you have external monitors set up, you can set it to automatically default the playback to that monitor and it'll be full screen. A lot of professional editing places set it up like that to their color correcting monitor. Okay, we don't need to worry about sync settings or the titler or trim. Okay, so that is all of the options we have in our preferences window inside Premiere Pro. Let's go to OK.